Welcome back, everyone. If you're interested in catching up on the earlier chapters of this manhwa, be sure to check out the previous video on our channel. Now, let's dive into today's recap and continue our journey through the story. Hari was stunned that Park Jong-chun was offering the Doujin group's unique rank weapons, especially since these top-grade weapons were not available for purchase with money. She remembered only having seen such weapons in videos during her student days. At that moment, Leon spoke up, asking Park Jong-chun where he was supposed to use these low-rank weapons. The room fell silent, with everyone shocked by Leon's dismissive remark about such prestigious weapons. Leon then remarked that all the weapons presented to him were considered low rank if they were not imbued with aura or holy blessings. Park Jong-chun, puzzled by this, admitted he knew nothing about aura or holy blessings. Leon continued, suggesting that merchants often flaunt their items wherever they go. He dismissed the weapons as suitable only for killing chickens and cows, though he expressed his willingness to test them out despite their perceived lack of value. Leon then summoned his sword with magic. Upon seeing it, Park Jong-chun's eyes gleamed with a menacing smile. He thought to himself that Leon had seriously underestimated the quality of Park Jong-chun's sword. In his mind, Leon's old sword could never hope to compete with the superior craftsmanship of his own weapon. Park Jong-chun then challenged Leon to see how his sword would handle against Park Jong-chun's. He turned to Hari and asked if she would like to test one of his swords. Hari was unsure of what to do but looked at Leon, who nodded, signaling that she could use the swords brought by Park Jong-chun. Hari selected one of the swords and was awestruck to find that the weapon she had admired was now in her hands. She could feel the immense power emanating from the sword and recognized it as one of the unique rank weapons. Hari asked Leon if she could truly use the sword, to which Leon responded that she didn't need permission to wield a toy sword. Park Jong-chun was annoyed by Leon's dismissal of his sword as merely a toy. Having received permission, Hari activated her magic and swung the sword with full force at Leon's old weapon. However, the sword she was wielding shattered into two pieces upon impact, unable to withstand the force. Everyone was stunned to see that Dawn, reputed to be the strongest sword in the world, had broken so easily against Leon's old sword. Observing this, Leon remarked that the swords given to him as gifts were even worse than he had anticipated and deemed the situation a waste of time. He then informed Park Jong-chun that he would be cutting the meeting short, with only 3 minutes remaining. Upon hearing this, Park Jong-chun panicked. He and his men bowed to Leon, requesting patent rights over the rice grains. Although Leon was initially annoyed by Park Jong-chun's request, the merchant quickly clarified that he was willing to pay for the patent rights. Park Jong-chun then mentioned that, according to their calculations, the blessed rice was valued at 180 billion won. He thought to himself that the rice was worth far more than that and couldn't possibly be valued so low, especially given its reputed ability to cure cancers. Park Jong-chun was planning to deceive Leon, believing that Leon would not know the true value of 180 billion won and would be shocked when he learned how much the rice was actually worth. Leon asked for confirmation that Park Jong-chun intended to purchase the rice with money, to which Park Jong-chun affirmed. Park Jong-chun smiled menacingly, believing that Leon had fallen for his scheme. Park Jong-chun then mentioned that they would need to sign a contract granting the Doujin group exclusive rights to the rice. He suggested that they could discuss raising the price. However, before he could continue, he was abruptly interrupted by Leon's furious voice. Leon was infuriated by Park Jong-chun's attempt to purchase land blessed by divinity with money. Seeing Leon's anger, Park Jong-chun panicked and immediately dropped to his knees, apologizing for his mistake, claiming he was unaware of the offense he had caused. Leon scolded Park Jong-chun for his ignorance and lack of civility. He explained that the crops they were so eager to obtain were a gift from the goddess Demera, meant as a reward for the farmers who worked hard in the fields. Such a blessing could not be bought with money. Leon emphasized that what was truly required was a heart full of gratitude and genuine faith, not financial compensation. Leon then reprimanded Park Jong-chun, calling him a lowly creature motivated solely by profit and deception. Park Jong-chun was enraged by the insult but was powerless to respond and could only listen in silence. Leon then questioned Park Jong-chun on why he desired to possess divine products from a goddess he did not even believe in. Although Park Jong-chun was burning with anger, he had no answer to Leon's question and was forced to give up. After a few moments, Hari asked Leon if it was wise to let Park Jongchun go so easily. She added that, despite Leon's view of him as a mere lowly merchant, Park Jongchun held significant influence. Leon responded by dismissing Hari's concern, stating that he was not someone to be swayed by someone as vulgar as Park Jongchun. He assured her that the matter was inconsequential to him. Leon then changed the subject, asking Hari if the arrangements he requested were ready. He needed soldiers to assist him and to help combat monsters. Hari informed him that the association had been contacted, but they were still working on it. Hari then asked if Leon planned to take the test to assess his ranking as a hunter. The association required tests to determine a hunter's ranking, and since Leon had recently arrived on Earth, he had not yet received a ranking. Leon became furious at the suggestion and declared that a king did not need to take such tests. Hari was puzzled, as she had assumed that Leon intended to undergo the assessment to determine his ranking. Hari then asked Leon why he wanted to visit the Hunters Association. Leon explained that he intended to find capable soldiers who could be of assistance to him, and he wanted to personally evaluate them. Hari expressed concern that arranging such a meeting would be challenging, but Leon insisted that she make it happen at any cost. The next day at the Hunter Association's building, many hunters gathered to assess their rankings. Among them was Gu Daesung, an unaffiliated D-rank hunter. Gu Daesung greeted Kim Do-han, a team manager. Kim Do-han raised his hand in acknowledgement and asked if Gu Daesung was there to retake the test. Gu Daesung's nerves showed at the prospect of retaking the test, but Kim, noticing his anxiety, reassured him by saying that Gu Daesung had worked very hard. Kim continued the conversation by asking Gu Daesung about his preparations for the test and whether he anticipated a higher ranking than last time. Gu Daesung replied that he would do his best to improve his ranking. He worried to himself that, despite many untalented individuals achieving C rank, he had remained a D rank hunter for 10 years, and he feared the outcome might be the same this time. At that moment, Kim interrupted Gu Daesung and suggested that he join Kim's mining team, noting Gu Daesung's dedication and betting that he would become an ace quickly if he worked with them. Kim reassured Gu Daesung that, although people often view it as hard labor, working in the mining team was not as bad as it seemed. Gu Daesung agreed with Kim's assessment, acknowledging his 10 years of experience with the mining team. However, Gu Daesung added that despite the tempting offer, he still aspired to be a hunter and achieve a higher ranking. Gu Daesung thought to himself that while being a miner had its advantages, it only provided a modest income. He needed more money, not just for himself but also to support his family, so he wasn't willing to give up on his ambition to achieve a higher rank. Gu Daesung resolved that he needed to rise to at least a C rank to stop being a burden on his family and improve their financial situation. As the two were talking, Kim noticed a foreign-looking individual walking past them. Gu Daesung asked Kim if the person was European, but Kim replied that the individual appeared to be a foreign laborer. Upon closer inspection, Kim added that the man, who turned out to be Leon, seemed to belong to some royal family. Kim then approached Leon and greeted him, but Leon responded rudely, stating that a commoner had no right to speak to him casually. Kim and Gu Daesung were both stunned by Leon's rude comment. As Leon walked away, he cast a glance at Gu Daesung, who felt a shiver run through his entire body. Kim noticed Gu Daesung's reaction and asked him what was wrong, but Gu Daesung stood frozen and unable to respond. Gu Daesung felt as if he could hardly breathe, overwhelmed by the sensation that something immense was pressing down on him. At that moment, an employee interrupted and called out to Gu Daesung, informing him that his interview would be conducted in room 2 and instructing him to go there. As Leon walked away, he reflected that, despite coming in search of strong individuals, he had yet to find anyone worthy of being his soldier. He noted that this was to be expected, as the only people who came for the test were either low-ranking hunters or those who had recently awakened. Just then, Leon's name was called for his interview in room 9. Upon hearing this, Leon proceeded to room 9, where he was greeted by the interviewers. Furious, Leon demanded that they address him as Majesty, rather than simply Leon. Although shocked, the interviewers complied with his request. The interviewer instructed Leon to place his hands on the measuring device so they could determine his rank, but Leon refused. Growing angry, Leon declared that a peasant had no right to test the honor of a king. The interviewer tried to clarify that it was not them who would be assessing Leon's power, but rather the device itself. However, Leon interrupted, insisting that a machine had no authority to measure his powers. He further proclaimed that only honorable knights and gods had the right to test him. The interviewer was taken aback by Leon's response and wondered why he was even there if he refused to allow any form of assessment. Leon, visibly angered, told them he had come to find useful soldiers but was disappointed to discover none were present, and even more so with the judge's incompetence. He declared that none of the candidates met his standards and demanded to know the location of the next test. One of the interviewers informed him that it was being held at the Soul Gate. Feeling somewhat satisfied with this information, Leon stated that real skills were demonstrated through consistent training in realistic situations. He decided to proceed to the Soul Gate to observe the next test. Meanwhile, the interviewer remained puzzled by the unusual situation. Moments later, all the test participants had gathered at the Soul Gate. Typically, gates that had been cleared were closed, but a few remained open for occasions like this, when people needed to take their tests. Gu Daesung thought to himself that this year's strength measurement was not significantly different from last year's. To achieve a better result, he needed to perform better in this test. As Gu Daesung looked back at the others taking the test with him, he noticed that two were newcomers. One was an elderly man over 60, and they were likely to be either D rank or C rank hunters. The last person was the foreign laborer Gu Daesung had seen earlier in the lobby. Gu Daesung thought to himself that, given Leon's presence, he too was probably a newcomer. Gu wondered if everything would be all right with such a group consisting mostly of novices and low-rank hunters. At that moment, everyone gathered together. One of the hunters suggested that they should introduce themselves before assessing their roles in dealing with the dungeon. Gu Daesung was the first to step forward. He introduced himself, stating that this was his 10th year as a hunter and that he specialized as a dealer. He also mentioned that he was primarily a warrior. The other hunters followed suit. One was named Shin Taihun, who had just awakened this year and used a shield and spear as his weapons. Another was Taihun's sister, Shin Na-yun, who primarily used daggers and was also learning to use a bow and arrow. Gu Daesung felt a sense of worry upon hearing their introductions, as they were all beginners who had not yet settled on their primary weapons. Gu Daesung then asked the two siblings if they had ever attended a training center. The siblings proudly responded that they had spent 3 months at one. Gu Daesung confirmed that they were indeed absolute novices. He then turned to the old man and inquired about his profession. The old man introduced himself as O Gangtae and mentioned that he was in his 5th year as a hunter. O Gangtae added that he had recently resigned from his previous position and used a gauntlet as his main weapon. Gu Daesung thought to himself that, given O Gangtae's age and relatively short experience, combined with the limitations of a gauntlet compared to a sword or spear, it would be challenging for him to cover the same distance in combat. Gu Daesung then turned to the last person, Leon, and asked if he could speak and understand Korean. However, Leon's response was unexpected. He told Gu Daesung that he did not engage in combat and added that one should not use a sword meant for slaying dragons to kill chickens. Gu Daesung was puzzled by Leon's cryptic answer, but he was also surprised to learn that Leon could speak Korean. After the introductions, they prepared for the test. The instructor informed them that a gnoll, a type of monster, might occasionally appear in the field. He assured them that if the situation became too dangerous, he would intervene and assist. He advised them not to worry and to focus solely on showcasing their skills. Despite the instructor's reassurance, Gu Daesung remained anxious, concerned about how the test would unfold. Earlier, Gu Daesung had noticed that Leon wasn't carrying a weapon and had asked him about it. At that moment, Shin Na-yun offered Leon her bow and arrow, suggesting that he could borrow it if he didn't have a weapon of his own. Leon took the bow and examined it with visible distaste. Shin Na-yun reassured him that he could return it after he was done using it. However, Leon, now visibly angered, threw the bow to the ground with force and declared that a knight would never use a long-range weapon like a bow, calling it a tool for cowards. Everyone was stunned by Leon's reaction. Gu Daesung, recalling his concerns about the team's performance, worried that they might fail under the current circumstances. Determined to improve their chances, he stepped up and suggested a location he knew was excellent for hunting monsters. Shin Taehoon supported Gu Daesung's suggestion, recognizing his extensive experience as a seasoned hunter. The rest of the team also agreed with Gu Daesung's proposal, except for Leon, who remained quietly observant from the back. Taehoon then approached Daesung and mentioned that there was a settlement at the end of the terrain, suggesting it might be a good spot for hunting monsters. However, Daesung disagreed, warning that venturing into a settlement with such a small group could be dangerous, as they might find themselves trapped by the monsters. Instead, Daesung proposed hunting kobolds that lived in nearby caves. He explained that they could set the surrounding grass or leaves on fire to create smoke, which would drive the kobolds out and make them easier to defeat. Taehoon praised Daesung's strategy, acknowledging his experience, but Daesung downplayed the compliment, stating it was just a practical solution and not something to be overly proud of. Daesung recalled how he had once studied various tutorials and raiding methods, dreaming of the day he would enter a high-ranked gate. Unfortunately, the only gate he had ever been to was the Soul Gate. Fueled by renewed determination, Daesung resolved to secure a promotion this time, as he was exhausted from being a D-rank hunter for so long. As Daesung was lost in thought, Taehoon suddenly went into a panic. Noticing Taehoon's distress, Daesung looked ahead and saw a horde of kobolds emerging before them. Quickly assessing the situation, Daesung ordered Taehoon to block the kobolds' attacks with his shield, to which Taehoon immediately agreed. As they continued fighting, Taehoon grew increasingly confident, boasting that dealing with the kobolds was easy due to their stupidity and predictable attack patterns. He noted that blocking their assaults was simple since they always charged straight at him. However, Taehoon's overconfidence led him to let his guard down, allowing one of the kobolds to slip past his shield and attack him. In a panic, Taehoon struggled to defend himself against the kobold. At that crucial moment, Oh Gangtae intervened, swiftly dispatching the kobold and saving Taehoon. Pleased with the outcome, Daesung encouraged the group, reminding them that only a few more kobolds remained and urging them to press on. After an intense battle, Daesung and his team emerged victorious. Daesung congratulated everyone on their success, but Taehoon apologized for his mistakes and overconfidence. Daesung reassured Taehoon, acknowledging that mistakes were expected, especially since it was his first encounter with kobolds. Nayeon had managed to kill 2 of the kobolds, and thanks to Oh Gangtae's timely intervention, no one was injured. While Daesung had initially been worried about the team's performance, he realized that they were not as inept as he had feared. Nonetheless, Daesung remained concerned about one individual, Leon. The team then questioned Leon about why he had not participated in the battle and why he had merely observed from the back. They wondered if it was acceptable for him to stand idle while the others fought. The instructor noted their concerns and assured them that he would take this into account when evaluating Leon. They proceeded further into the area, eventually arriving at the cave. Daesung instructed the team to start a fire at the cave's entrance to draw out the kobolds. They gathered a large amount of dry grass and arranged it in front of the cave's entrance. As Daesung prepared to light the fire, Leon approached and questioned whether this was the best method Daesung could come up with. Daesung, taken aback, asked what Leon meant, especially considering Leon had not contributed to the fight. Leon reiterated his question, asking if this was truly the best strategy Daesung could think of. Daesung explained that he had successfully used this method 3 times before, but Leon interrupted, asserting that relying on experience was flawed when one had so little to begin with. Annoyed by Leon's comments, Daesung ignored him and proceeded to light the fire. Once the fire was set, Daesung instructed everyone to gather around him, as the kobolds inside the cave would soon emerge. The team took their positions, prepared for battle. Moments later, the roars of numerous kobolds echoed as they rushed out of the cave. Daesung and his team engaged the kobolds effectively. As they fought, Daesung was confident that his strategy would succeed. He shouted to his team that if they continued at their current pace, they would be able to eliminate all the kobolds. As they were fighting, Daesung suddenly panicked upon hearing the growl of the Null Captain. The Null Captain was a formidable boss-level monster from the Seoul Station Gate, ranked significantly higher than anything they had faced. Daesung, having never encountered a Null Captain before, was overwhelmed with fear and uncertainty. He realized that the Null Captain's rank far exceeded both his and his team's capabilities. Daesung was frantic at the sight of the Null Captain and felt uncertain about what to do. Nayun asked Daesung how they should handle the situation. In a rush, Daesung instructed that he and Taehoon would confront the Null captain, while the others should manage the kobolds in the cave. Daesung thought to himself that facing a Null captain as a D-rank hunter was nearly suicidal without experienced support. Although Taehoon was a novice, Daesung knew he had to rely on him and hold out as long as possible until help arrived. Taehoon, upon seeing the Null captain, was suddenly paralyzed by fear and couldn't move. The Null captain's roar sent a wave of terror through Taehoon. Daesung shouted at Taehoon to regain his composure, but it was futile. Taehoon was too overwhelmed by the sight of the Null captain. At that moment, the Null captain swung its massive weapon toward Taehoon. Daesung thought to himself that if Taehoon remained in such a state, he would never be able to block the attack. Daesung glanced at the association employee, frustrated that he wasn't intervening despite promising to help if things became dangerous. Realizing he had no other option, Daesung grabbed the shield from the ground. Just as the Null captain's massive weapon was about to strike Taehoon, Daesung managed to block the blow. Shouting in anger, he pushed the Null captain's weapon away from his shield. However, the Null captain quickly readied another devastating attack. Daesung wondered if he could block this second blow, as the first attack had already drained him significantly. He thought to himself that if Taehoon had been able to regain his composure, they might have stood a chance against the Null captain. But with the situation now so dire, Daesung feared they were all doomed. At that moment, Leon stepped in and blocked the Null captain's attack aimed at Daesung with just 2 fingers. Calmly, Leon told Daesung to resume fighting the Null captain. Daesung was stunned, unable to believe that Leon had stopped such a powerful attack so effortlessly. Confused, Daesung asked Leon to clarify his statement. Leon instructed Daesung to pick up his shield and face the Null captain. He assured Daesung that if he could confront the Null captain once, he would be able to face it again. Leon urged Daesung to raise his shield, and stand firm against the Null captain. Daesung was stunned by Leon's words. Leon then instructed him to block the Null captain's attack and counterattack. Daesung questioned whether Leon fully understood the gravity of their situation and the imminent danger they faced. Leon, however, was infuriated by Daesung's defiance, especially after witnessing the power of the King of the Lionheart's guidance. Leon declared that Daesung should feel honored to be guided by a king, and that such guidance was a privilege for someone of his lowly status. Leon firmly told Daesung once more to raise his shield and strike back at the Null captain. Although Daesung was bewildered by his interaction with Leon, he knew he had to act to ensure their survival. The Null captain, however, shifted its focus to Leon and prepared to attack, but it hesitated, sensing that it would face certain death if it went through with the assault. As the Null captain cowered in fear, Daesung saw an opportunity and charged at it. However, the Null captain quickly retaliated with a powerful swing. Daesung managed to block the blow, but the force was so great that it nearly caused him to drop his shield. At that moment, Leon shouted at Daesung, criticizing him for relying solely on brute strength and a shield while fighting the Null captain. Leon then advised Daesung not to confront an opponent stronger than himself head-on. He instructed Daesung to deflect the Null captain's attacks and search for an opening instead, emphasizing that simply defending would not win the battle. Leon reminded Daesung that the Null captain was not a scarecrow but a living, adaptable creature, and urged Daesung to use his wits to find a strategy to overcome it. Despite Leon's guidance, Daesung remained overwhelmed and unsure of how to defeat the Null captain. At that moment, Leon told Daesung not to let his potential go to waste and to maximize his abilities. He insisted that Daesung was capable of more than he was currently demonstrating. Daesung was taken aback by Leon's words. As a talentless D-rank hunter without any exclusive skills, Daesung had never believed he had any real potential. Yet, despite his skepticism, he resolved to prove himself differently this time and take on the Null captain with renewed determination. As the Null captain swung its weapon with full force towards Daesung, he summoned all his strength and managed to block the attack with surprising ease. Daesung was momentarily stunned by his own success. However, just as he was about to celebrate, the Null captain delivered a devastating blow, and Daesung suddenly collapsed, losing consciousness. Leon was disappointed by Daesung's lack of potential and puzzled by his inability to see the bigger picture. Addressing Daesung, who lay unconscious on the ground, Leon remarked that Daesung still had a long way to go. Ultimately, Daesung's evaluation for the year remained at D rank. After the test, Leon was at the Hunter Association base, engaged in conversation with a man. Leon remarked that a warrior like him would never stoop to being a mere mercenary. The man then removed his mask, revealing himself to be Oh Kang-hyuk, the president of the Korean Hunter Association. With a smile, Oh Kang-hyuk admitted that he had used a bewitching mask to disguise himself, but it had proven futile as Leon had seen through the deception. Oh Kang-hyuk then asked Leon why he had participated in the test and whether he had achieved his goals. Leon replied that he had found one promising candidate among the participants and was somewhat satisfied with the outcome. Leon reassured Oh Kang-hyuk that he needn't be anxious, as he had no plans to leave the country anytime soon. Oh Kang-hyuk was taken aback, surprised that Leon knew what he was thinking. He admitted that he was nervous because Leon's displayed powers were so extraordinary. Oh Kang-hyuk was particularly impressed with how easily Leon handled the Null Captain. Despite the dungeon being rated D rank, the boss monster was at least C rank, yet Leon dealt with it effortlessly. Oh Kang-hyuk marveled at how Leon treated a C rank monster as if it were a mere toy. Leon, however, added that the monster wasn't even worth being considered a toy for him. Oh Kang-hyuk then shifted the conversation and offered to assist Leon if he decided to start a guild. He explained that Leon might already know that fame was crucial for establishing an organization, and in the current era, there were limited ways to achieve such recognition. Oh Kang-hyuk then changed the subject and informed Leon about a gate in Cheongju that had turned red. Due to a failed raid. For a year now, no one had been able to either clear the gate or destroy it, nor retrieve the Jewel of Wisdom that was inside. The gate was guarded by a boss known as the Jagged Spinner. That's all for today. If you do enjoy the video, please subscribe, like and share, and also share your thoughts in the comment section.